Hello and welcome to Daily Austin Music, your home for news, views, interviews, and reviews of the Austin music scene, and I'm Pastor Colin McDonald. Now today I had the pleasure of sitting down to speak with David Shabani. He has an interesting story and unique perspective. Born to Congolese parents in Paris, Shabani immigrated to Canada before launching his alternative hip-hop artistry here in Texas. Now we talked about everything from his approach to the music business, to storytelling, faith, and his latest album and concert series, Smooth Sounds of the Southwest, continuing this Saturday, the 23rd at Augustine on Rainy Street.
I wanted to stylistically kind of focus on, our region of Texas, whereas, we're not necessarily just the South, but we're also not necessarily just the West, so we're kind of in this pocket of the Southwest, and Texas in particular. I think because of that, there's a lot of genres that come out of Texas. Of course, it's country music, but there's also a lot of blues, a lot of country blues, there's bluegrass, also, and then there's there's also our soul and our R&B and our hip hop. Erykah Badu's from Texas, Beyonce's from Texas. Those are way different styles of R&B music. There's a lot of hip hop that comes out of Texas. There's a lot of very Texas sounding hip hop, of course. In Houston, of course, with the screw music. Of course, in Dallas too, and we're in Austin. We're in Central Texas, so there's a lot of forms of music that come from here. So I thought it would be cool to really focus on the smooth sounds of the Southwest. 6 weeks of soul, hip hop, and R&B from different types of artists, from different types of places, but focusing on the aspect that we are in Texas after all. And so we're playing in this, I guess it's 7 different venues. Within the capital of the state, the live music capital of the world, but also the capital of the Lone Star State. So I did want to focus on making it a Texas-centric type thing. And so it's been dope. We've been playing in very different places. We played at a brewery. That was huge. We also played in a very tight, intimate setting at Firehouse, where there was a lot of people there, shoulder to shoulder. You know what I'm saying? It was really like a very kind of like a underground, intimate type live setting. And so we've been switching up the scenarios, switching up the destinations, but the sound is the consistency of hip hop, R&B, soul music. A lot of switching up, a lot of different special guests, different openers. And so it's been kind of an event that we've been trying to make every week. Not necessarily replicate it every week, but a different version of it every week. And so that's what we've been working on. I've only had 3 of those shows, so there's 3 more. It's exciting. It's a cool little event.
And the next one is Augustine, right? It's Saturday?
Yeah, so this Saturday I'm at Augustine and what's cool also is that every week I've played with my band as well, the New Leopards. So it's David Shabani and the New Leopards, along with openings and closers and whatnot. And so so at Augustine, we're gonna play with the full band again, and which is cool because I played there a long time ago. I want to say 2016 maybe, 2016, 2017, one of those 2 years, by myself. And back then the venue was completely different. It was called different, of course. I think it was called Black Heart. But now it's like it's almost like what has changed, right? Like now you're seeing Shabani 2017 and Shabani 2022. What has changed? How does it look different? And now it's with a huge band, openers, special guests, the set list. We have covers, so it's a whole different aspect. And it's really, Augustine, I'm excited because it's really going to be like a pocket of very cool music and a place that you don't always see, like Rainy, you don't always see that place cater to live music very often. And so it's going to be cool to see that at Augustine. That's Saturday at 6 p.m.
Man, that sounds like it's going to be an incredible show. Now, talk to me a little bit about using the live band, because that is part of the Southwest sound. How long have you been with the New Leopards, and kind of how did that come to be?
What's crazy is I've been trying to put together a band, honestly, like some people might not see, but it's been like almost 10 years of me trying to figure out get the right bookings to have a band, are necessary for a band, and of course maybe the right income to be able to support a band, but also at the same time the right amount of time to prepare a set list for an entire band, and then also the curating of, is this the drummer, is this the bassist, do I need a guitarist, do I need a keyboard player, do I need 2 keyboard players, is there a backup singer, should I have a choir, all of that. It had been years for me to put that together. I played I played at the X Games 2014, 2015, I think, with a smaller condensed version of a band. It was like A and B testing, trial and error. And then when the pandemic came, coronavirus happened, there was much more time. Like musicians had much more time at home. That might be like a blessing and a curse, because for me it was kind of a blessing because I was able to take my time to find different musicians, put them in the same room, get the time to rehearse, have them take the time to learn the music. Like understand like this is a 20 song set, this is a 12 song set version, really prepare that. And we took time preparing. And then I had the first 2 shows were live stream shows. So we did one show with the Refugee Services of Texas. It was like a benefit show. And then I did one with Safe House. And then it was high production. So with that, I was able to take a product and then show to venues and to other band members that like this is what it looks like, this is what it sounds like. And so with that, you know how to fit in and you know where to fit that in when it comes to like a talent buyer or something like that.
Now, I love how you're treating this as a business, the music business, with the product and everything, and it's gotten you so far with the sound and everything you're doing. Say a little bit about your approach to the music business.
This might sound like a stretch, but I played football for a very long time, and so you have a head coach. The head coach can't be coaching the cornerbacks and the receivers all day. He can't. He doesn't have, but there's a vision that's being sent there from the head coach still. So, and it's something that I try to like, same thing with a movie set. The director's not going to be rehearsing the lines with every actor, right? But there is still a vision that comes from the director that's going to, be publicized. And so that's something that when it comes to business is you understand that it's a huge team. There's a lot of delegation. And so what do you actually have to do one by one all the time, all day? Like, do you really have to be designing the flyer? Is there not someone that's better at designing flyers that can be doing that for you? Do you really have to be selling the merchandise? Is there not someone that can be there selling the merchandise for you that's better at that? Even though you delegated that, that's still part of your organization. And so I do think that the longer I've been doing this, the more I've realized that like, how can I focus on the product, which is the music, and how can I delegate some of this other stuff, some of these other tasks, and that helps continue the momentum. So it helps you progress.
And that vision comes from the top. That leadership comes from the top. And you've got some ubiquitous themes on this record, from truth to trust to travel, and not just traveling the globe, but it seems like you're really traveling somewhere. And I'm curious about what that's like for you. What is the culmination of this? Where do you see yourself in kind of 3 to 5 years?
Interestingly enough, I think like mentally my next step, if we're talking about the parallel of progression and how that's related to my actual geographic movement, I do think that the next step is almost not being tied down to one place. And so if I'm touring, or if I have residencies in maybe New York, back in Toronto, back in Paris, or Canada in general, maybe back on the West Coast, is still coming down to Texas, playing in Dallas more often because that is where I'm from also. Touring in the States. I think that's what I want to be at in the next level, is like not even tied down to one place, but to a point where the music is spreading and the career is spreading in a way where I'm just constantly moving and I have different places at once. And it's kind of how I was raised. So it would make sense for that to end up being like the next destination.
And man, I love that you recognize that Austin truly is a place that you can use as a stepping stone. And that's a key, I think, to growing a national and even international audience. Now, you speak a lot about identity on the record, and kind of with your unique background, I'm curious about your experience finding your identity within the Austin music scene and I'll quote you here, as a young black illegal alien.
Yeah, I think that Austin is, like I said before about Texas having a sound, and hip hop used to be very geographically focused in terms of like people in Atlanta sound like Atlanta rap, or New York sounds like New York rap, and the West Coast had its sound, of course. Miami had its sound, and so hip hop has been moving towards in a way where it's no longer as tied down to that. And I think Austin is a microcosm of that, because most people who live in Austin aren't from Austin. Shout out to everyone who's like born and bred in Austin, because they've created this environment for us. But most people who, at least that I meet, living in Austin are not born and raised in Austin, right? And so because of that, it's created a sound that's almost like it's like a compilation, right? It's a compilation of sounds. And so because of that, it's actually easy, I think, for me to find myself in terms of like, I know I don't sound like this or like that or like that or like this. I know that for a fact. And so I know, and I felt it personally, excuse me, when people see me live, there's a double. There's a, wow, this is hip hop music. It's not always I don't always expect hip hop music at a venue like this. Usually hip hop shows in Austin are going to be the big touring artists, that used to be at Frank Irwin, or maybe Mohawk or Stubbs, you know what I'm saying? But like, that's usually where you see like big touring rap artists. Besides that though, like local artists, we used to be playing at the same two venues maybe, you know, and maybe every now and then we get to open for one of these bigger artists. But you wouldn't see hip hop at like breweries, even though breweries had music all the time. You wouldn't see hip hop on Rainy, even though Rainy had live music all the time. If you heard hip hop, it's because the DJ's playing it. And so when people see me at like some venue, I get a double reaction where people are like, damn, that's cool, this is hip hop music. I didn't expect to see that at Blind Pig. But at the same time, this doesn't sound like a bunch of other rappers. So you get a double like pull into the music where it's like, damn, this is a very particular sound in a genre that is not heard enough in the city, honestly. And so I think that's helped me find my sound. Right. In this musically growing city.
Man, that's right. And not only have you found the sound, but it seems like you found a way to throw an event. And I don't see this concert series as a group of shows, but more as a focused event spread out over time, you know, through different music venues and for an audience. You have a specific target market that you're going for. And a lot of musicians miss that. Now, you've got a great line on this record. It says, they eat the rich, but what if I become them? I can almost see the bridge. Talk to me about what that means to you and how you're dealing with finding success and still being authentic to yourself and where you come from.
Yeah, I mean, that's essentially what it's saying. And so it says like, eat the rich, but what if I become them? I can almost see the bridge. And then it says Oakland to San Francisco, where it's supposed to show this like, these two close cities where like the worlds are way different. Right, and so that's something that you think about. That's true because when you're raised with not a lot of money, like just the average person, right? So it's not to say like my life is super unique, but the average person might be raised with not a lot of money, and so you're raised with this criticism of the ultra rich or the rich or the number 1% or the high class or Hollywood status. But then you're in this art form where like that might be where you end up. So if you get there, what happens? Do you completely change your narrative, or do you hate yourself? So it creates this question of like, what exactly is your identity? Is your identity, what you are? Like, are you born with your identity, or is it what you do? Like, is it the occupation you have? And so it's something that I think about, even, living in Austin, even, doing music, starting to be in a different world and shake different hands, and rub shoulders with different people that you didn't expect. Well, not that you didn't expect, but you didn't always rub shoulders with. And so then it becomes like, I focus on my narrative a lot. I focus on like, what am I writing? And so I don't know that person yet, right? I'm not there yet. But if in 4 years, what will my verses sound like? Because right now, my verses today don't sound like they did 4 years ago, right? My point of view has maybe not evolved, but it has progressed to be different, So to come from a different standpoint. And so, I think that line really is just saying like, it's really saying, what would I don't know. I don't know if I have the answer, but like, how would I deal with that? How would I deal with with being a critic of the love of money, and then you hit the lotto. What happens now? Are you no longer that critic? Do you have to give away your money? So it's a true question that I think that a lot of people who come from humble beginnings and then the next day they're just Hollywood rich, what does that put you now, right? And so I think that I would like to believe that the moral is that no, it doesn't change my narrative. It doesn't change my point of view. But it might change my everyday experiences.
Man, and that's what I love about this record. It's a thinking record. You can tell that you put a lot of effort and thought into the narrative, and it's not a record you just listen to once and get. It's a record that can reveal itself over time, and that's beautiful. It's art. So Doing Better is my favorite track on the record. And that one you have the line, I used to lie a lot, but now it's only true. And after you say that, you say, I'm good at judging my past, but now I'm doing better. And I'm curious, how are those two statements related?
It's like, I think the whole song is about, like self-improvement, right? So being self-aware that, like, maybe I used to live a certain way, but I'm growing. We're older, like I'm a 30-year-old rapper. You know what I'm saying? Like, that doesn't mean I have to stop rapping. It just means that maybe the narrative and the focus on subjects is changing. It's doing better, and so when I say that, it's only true now. Like, I'm true to myself. I'm not as unrealistic about, like, who I am. It's solidifying, and so I'm better at judging myself. And so the song, the tape itself, the album, I guess, the record is really, it's very autobiographical, so in the first song, one of the lyrics says, all my papers faked, me and my cousins, we was getting smuggled. If we made mistakes, they would send us right back to the rubble. And so what that's saying is, almost everyone I know, we lived here illegally, without papers, let's say, and so, or undocumented, some people may say, which gave us, like, this fear of, if you get arrested or caught up by a cop or even stopped, how do you not know he's gonna be like, show me your papers, we're sending your ass back right now? That is showing, like, a very early mind, right? It's showing a very early mentality of like how I used to think as a kid, maybe a high schooler. But at the end of the album, you have HJU to AUS, where at the end of the album, it's a literal destination. So from one place to one place, and it's saying, I don't need you to fix me. I came out fine. So now you've created the whole, like, this is where I am today. And so it's a story, like, condensation. It's almost like I put together, like, the cliff notes of my life, almost, of like, yo, all right, so now I'm here. I was here, but now I'm here. And so Doing Better really, it sits in the middle of the album, kind of, where it's showing, like, at the end of the day, man, whatever I was, like, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, I'm doing better. I've progressed. And so, the album really, it's 7 songs. It's kind of short, but I do feel like it says a lot.
And it says a ton. And I feel like I know you so much better from listening to the record than just reading your bio. It's such a super honest record, which I just love. I just dig the heck out of it. But as a pastor, I have to dig a little bit further, and you have some religious imagery in here about, how'd you go through hell so I could see heaven. Can you talk to me a little bit about your faith, and were you raised in faith, or what's that been like for you?
I was raised in the church, man. I was raised in a very devout Christian family, Baptist, Pentecostal as well, and so I was, and so with that being said, I know that I don't physically live the way I did when I was with my mother, like at the crib, like going to church every day, like being at church all day, what I'm saying, like gospel music on all day. But it's within me, right? And so I think that now I live a way where deep in my mind I might criticize myself, as in, like, is this really, like, the moral way of living or doing, anything? And so It's something that, because it's in my mind, it shows up in some of my music in terms of like, you know, like, is this right? Is this, you know? And so, yeah, so I am a God-fearing man. I just don't know if I've been the poster child for devoutness recently in life. So,
man, I don't know about all that, but I do think that with this record, you've been kind of a poster child for expressing your honest experience at the very least. I know that there is an underlying, undeniable divinity to what we do as artists because we create, and that's what we are meant to do. And it's out of our experience that we can create art that can be a gift of wisdom and hopefully maybe relieve a little bit of suffering for people that witness that expression, right? And when you create with honesty, you get that double take that you talked about, where it's not only, oh, this is hip hop on Rainy Street, and oh, it doesn't sound like other hip hop that I've heard, but even the triple take of, wait, what did he just say? I'm gonna have to think about that and how that applies to my life and my perspective. And oh man, I just love what you're doing, man. I'm really looking forward to the show on Saturday at Augustine, and man, thank you, David. This was an absolute pleasure. All right, that's it for this interview with David Shabani. You can catch David at ifeelgoodrightnow.com, Instagram at iDavidShabani. You can check him on YouTube and all the streaming sites. And also be sure to catch David Shabani's Smooth Sounds of the Southwest this Saturday at Augustine on Rainy Street. Next week, April 30th at Central Machine Works at 7, May 7th at Austin Beer Garden and Brewing at 9, and May 8th at the Pecan Street Festival at 2 p.m. Thank you so much for watching. I love you, and there's nothing you can do about it. I'll see you tomorrow.